I work at a hotel. One night, as I'm starting my shift, one of my supervisors calls me to the back office to talk about a strange review she received recently. She wants my opinion on it. I identify as non-binary, and I got approval from my front office manager, both supervisors and our general manager, to wear collar pins with my preferred pronouns they, them while at the front desk. I don't get along with our newest human resources person, so she's not my biggest fan. It's important to note that I never correct anyone on my identifiers. I wear them for my own comfort. Even when guests notice and compliment them, I just say, "Thank you, I appreciate that," and move on. But it seems one guest didn't like it, and it upset them so much they had to leave a review about it. According to the guest, they called the front desk at night to complain that their thermostat was offline and they couldn't adjust it themselves. They were uncomfortable having to call the desk for help, as they believed it should have been fixed remotely. We do have access to most thermostats online and can control the temperature remotely. The guest mentioned in their review that the front desk person was useless because all they cared about was getting their pronouns correct. Well, at least they got my pronouns right. But honestly, I'm so confused because I don't recall ever having an interaction like that with a guest. Plus, I was away for almost a week, so I have no idea who this could have been. It's funny how people's perceptions of me cause such trouble, that it allegedly ruined an entire vacation. Since I'm the only openly trans person at the desk, it's safe to assume the review was about me. My supervisor and I laughed about it, and she told me she struggled to respond politely to them. I really appreciate my team's support. Story 2. Some time ago, I used to work in the deli section of a grocery store. It was filled with people who got promoted and suddenly acted like they were above everyone else, making unrealistic demands. My job involved slicing meat and cheese, making sandwiches, and frying foods like wings, chicken, and potato wedges. When I was hired, my tattoos were visible just below my elbows, but they were harmless, just the names of my kids. About a year into my job, the management suddenly decided that tattoos and piercings were against the dress code. They made anyone with piercings remove them, and those with tattoos cover them up. Since my tattoos extended to my wrists, I asked if this applied to me too, especially since I handled food all day. I didn't want dirty sleeves near someone's sandwich, but they brushed off my concerns, saying I should have considered future employment before getting inked. So I thought to myself, I can't bend the rules, so I won't. The next day, when the big bosses of the store were making rounds, I made sure my sleeves were down to my wrists. I was knee-deep in frying chicken, my shirt soaked in chicken blood up to my elbows. We had to cook 3 boxes every morning, around 150 pounds of chicken, and I was halfway through the last box. When they shouted for me to stop, I innocently asked, "Me, what's up? Can you spot my tattoo?" They didn't reply. One just stared, mouth wide open, while the other glared as if he could set me on fire with his eyes. Me, well, if there's nothing else, I'm almost done here, and then I'll move on to making sandwiches. They told me to pack up and go home for the day. They tried to fire me, but since I had asked about the sleeves being unsanitary and was brushed off, they couldn't fire me for following their own rules. They attempted to slash my hours, so I publicly suggested it felt like retaliation and hinted at legal action, even though I couldn't afford a lawyer. Finally, a month later, they told me I could roll up my sleeves while working behind the counter. My response to them, "Thanks, but I already found another job. Been there 2 weeks now. Have the day you guys deserve." Story 3. I work in a restaurant in a small town. I absolutely love my job, and most of my customers are great. Night shift, we work 2 guys, and tonight we are working both. I've been here for 2 hours without a desk, no users, and I'm metaphorically banging my head against the wall because I'm so bored. I see a couple pull up, and I'm excited to finally have a table. This old married couple comes in, and they seem cute. I started to lead them to their table, but suddenly the man stopped and asked, "Man, is your cafeteria buffet line open? We have a lunch buffet that runs throughout the day but closes at night." Me, "We don't do buffet at night, sir." Man gets worried, "So what? You don't do buffets anymore?" Me, "As best as I can, but I'm sorry to say, sir, but we close it at 3. Man barking back, "Well, what time does it open?" Me, 11 o'clock in the morning. Man, "And what time is it?" The way he asked was as if he had won an argument. I tell him the time it's almost 6 p.m., so the buffet has just been closed for an hour. He keeps trying to argue and gets mad until his wife forces him to sit down. Manuel, where's the food? Me, even though the buffet line is closed, we can still have the same meal. It's just made in the kitchen, and I'll bring it to you. He grabs his menu and laughs. I grab my order book. Me, can I go ahead and? Man, biting me, I'm not going to order anything from you if you just stand there. Mind, I am standing in front of it and not near the table. I feel my face getting red, and I finish doing my best to keep my composure. Me, can I go ahead and get you all something to drink? Manuel, I haven't even had a chance to look at the menu, so no, you can't. Leave us alone. I'm already having a bad night. I just got kicked out, and I'm couch surfing trying to find a spot, so it's been rough, and I feel the floodgates open. There are. Me, I'm sorry, sir, but you won't be rude to me. His mouth falls open, and he begins to stagger. Man, I wasn't being rude. Me, I'm sorry, but you won't be rude to me. I'll give you all a minute to look at the menu. I then left quickly and went to find the owner of the restaurant. I told him the situation. He was worried. He said I shouldn't be treated like this and switched servers. I sat down to wait for the next people to arrive and noticed that the other server was also struggling with these customers. Eventually, I guess the couple got very angry and left. I will say that I have dealt with some horrible people while in the service industry, but this was the worst I have ever been treated. Story 4. I had a bad parenting episode today, but it turned out great. My 2-year-old son has had a rough week. He is sick and his last teeth are coming. He is very strong but very tired. In fact, everything that could go wrong today seemed to go wrong. I was already at my wit's end, and truth be told, I was heading for a mental breakdown, so I decided it was time for the old and true last resort before bed, a little drive. I strapped him into his car seat and my finger was on my phone. I try to avoid curse words and everything on my son as he's getting to that age, but we listened to Rafi all day, so it was meant to be. I had been practically impersonating AMS, Rachel, for the past 5 screaming hours just to get a little bit of happiness. Of course, I had a little guilty pleasure. So I put on some 3-6 group rap group and off we went. He listened for a few minutes before I suddenly heard him rap out, twinkle EW stay. How me woo-do wah wabu wow, and it changed my whole thinking. I laughed out loud and he laughed hysterically. Almost every day he surprises me in the most wonderful ways. Even on the worst days, this kid almost makes me cry with laughter, reminding me that sometimes things aren't so serious. Love my little bug. Story 5. A few years back, I rented an apartment from a friend of mine. He had recently bought it and had it completely renovated. He put it up for sale but couldn't find a buyer, so I offered to rent it in the meantime. After moving in, I realized there was something wrong with the lady next door. She was about 45, but looked much older. She would sit up all night listening to Christian radio shows and talking loudly to someone. It got to the point where I couldn't sleep, so I went over to her place and asked her to keep it down. She opened her door and I got a quick peek. Her walks all had crosses painted on them in different colors, and words like Jesus and angel scribbled everywhere. The windows were painted black, letting no light in at all. It was damp, yellow-stained 50-year-old carpets, dog shit and cockroaches everywhere. No dog though. Wasa. I asked her to please keep it down. She just looked at Tan, shut the door. Then she turned up the radio even louder. The next night I had my GF staying over. I wake up in the middle of the night and see a shadow of a person next to the bed looking at us sleeping. I think I'm hallucinating, as I usually do in the dark when I'm sleepy. But then the shadow starts talking. It's my neighbor and she's holding something in her hand. She broke in during the night and who knows how long she stood there. You should lock your door at night, she says, and walks out. The next morning I hear someone making strange noises below my bedroom window. It's my neighbor talking to herself in tongue. She has a plastic bag in her hand with her rotting dead dog inside. It's hot as hell outside and I can smell death from the bag. At this point I'm scared shitless. She's obviously very insane. I'll go upstairs and knock on another person's door and ask what the hell is going on. The guy is as scared as me. Apparently she broke into his apartment one evening as well, while he was watching TV with his kids. He got up from the couch to get a snack only to find her behind the couch staring at him, holding a power drill. Now I know what was in her hand. I at this stage am basically P0 oping myself. I call the cops and they know all about her. Apparently she is a violent schizzo and she hasn't taken her meds, but they can T-force her or enter her apartment without her permission because she owns it. The only thing they can do is gather when she goes outside. I sit up for the next 2 days waiting for her to run out of cigarettes. When I hear her leave at 2 a.m. to go across the road to the 7-Eleven, I call the cops. They have 3 cars and a special van over in less than 2 minutes. They restrain her and throw her in the van and drive off to some institution, and in less than a minute, it's like she was never there. I never see her again. Still have nightmares about her looking at me in my sleep. Edit, this blew up. Some are wondering why breaking in was not enough to arrest her. The police said there was no sign of a break-in and she didn't steal anything, so not too much to go on. And yes, this is probably the craziest thing I have experienced, so naturally I have told this story before.